Hello everyone and welcome to game 2 in this series between Keen versus Twilight for you, and we'll see what happens in this game. Game 1, Keen doing a great job, a great game sense, knowing when to put pressure and knowing when to defend, and was able to handle some of the most delicate cheese I've ever seen on Tal'Darim Altar. One of those things where a crazy play could work out, everything was going for Twilight, and then Twilight seemed to completely lose it all and take a lot of damage. Now, taking a look at the current setup, we now have Keen spawning as the purple Terran player here at the 7 or 8 o'clock position. Meanwhile, we have Twilight for you spawning as the red Protoss at the 3 o'clock position. So this is going to be Terran versus Protoss here on Antigua Shipyard. Full cross spawns, meaning that the map is essentially very balanced at this stage. And because of the balance and the positioning, I expect a little bit more of a longer game. And also, since there are no crazy scouting probes this early in the game, I do expect perhaps a little bit more straight up play. Now, taking a look at how everything is working out so far, you can see currently Twilight for you getting a gateway rather close to home, not doing any sort of wall off here, but there is a pylon on the ramp, so a little bit curious as to why the buildings are set up like this. Now taking a look at the probe that is going to be doing that scouting, he will find his opponent, see a barracks and a refinery come into play, and know pretty much what to expect in this matchup so far. So probe just going to sneak on inside, take a look around, and figure out what's going down and what's going on. Now, at this stage, MVP still has a number of options. He can still try to expand with the Reaper expansion, and as the probe now getting some damage onto the SCV, but because of the build time remaining, the barracks will get completed with no issue, and a Marine will be added. Supply depot looks like it will be added on the front door to make sure that the probe is not able to get in any further. However, the SCV is taking a bit of damage, and there you can see Keen stopping his SCV from building and then repositioning it as the SCV does start to wander around, buying him some time for that Marine to pop out. A Cybernetics core now being added. It looks as though a second assimilator being added, so pretty much Twilight showing to Keen that he's going to be going for no crazy expansion play, just a very straight up tech play, and I don't expect to see an expansion anytime soon from Twilight unless we see sentries. Sentries are a very, very gas intensive unit, not very heavy on minerals, and a Protoss player can macro up a lot of sentries and at the same time have enough defense with the help of those force fields and saving up enough minerals. We are going into a reactor Hellion play though, which is something that you rarely ever see, especially against, or you rarely ever see against Protoss, ever since the Blue Flame Hellion tech was nerfed from 10 damage down to 5. 10 damage down to 5, meaning that those Hellions still need 3 shots to try to shoot down a probe. Perhaps Keen's gonna put pressure with 4 to 6 Hellions at a time in order to deal that damage. But it looks like sentries are being added, and it does look like Twilight for you is gonna be going for a Nexus. He held off on the gateways there, and now is training up a couple sentries, as I mentioned. So it is a sentry expansion off of a 1 gate and off of a lot of assimilators, so we'll see what Keen does in response to this. We do see double Hellions now being added, and I do see double gas also being built as well. There should be a starport. Where is that starport? Starport hidden over here. So a starport, it is going to be a proxy starport play to get in a lot of Banshees for damage. Now, sentries are not that effective against Banshees. The Banshees definitely have a faster attack rate and also superior range. Yeah, superior range, more hit points, better damage. So these sentries are not going to be able to really hold off the attacks all too well. The Guardian Shields will force it to perhaps do a little bit more damage, as we are now going to see a medevac come in. But what is this probe going to do? That probe is going to try to warp in a pylon on the high ground. The Hellions need to make their way over. Is the probe going to spot this? And oh, I believe he actually spotted it. Yes, he did spot the medevac being trained, and that was huge. Beautiful, beautiful luck for Twilight, catching and seeing that, as the Hellions are now going to rush in, get in some probe kills. There's one already. Another one there. Force fields coming in, trapping 2 of the Hellions, though. That is huge. As now more force fields come in, and Keen in trouble. Wow. How things quickly change in StarCraft 2. 2 force fields taking down 2 Hellions, 2 more force fields trapping another. And now Keen, who I was originally thinking had such a strong advantage, is now in trouble. 2 sentries and a stalker are waiting and lying in wait for what they believe to be a Hellion drop, and there is going to be a Hellion drop coming along this backside here. There are 2 Hellions in this group. The stalker, is he going to catch it in time? In come the Hellions. Hellions now dropping in a line, getting some damage onto those probes. There you go. Force fields now coming into play. Needs to get the sentries. The sentry kills are huge, as now the Hellions trying to push back in, but a nice pylon block there. The Hellions now have nowhere to run. Gonna catch another probe, and now pretty much in trouble. The sentry may be able to get a force field off. Yes, there's the force field, and now the Hellions have been taken out. Taking a look at the losses for Twilight slightly ahead, or slightly higher, but Twilight is running on 2 bases with 27 probes now compared to 28 probes on 1 base. A Raven is now being added, and I believe the days of this starport are pretty much numbered. Stalkers and sentries will make their way over. This medevac is going to retreat as well, as this SCV going to see the numbers come in. Is the starport going to cancel or lift off? Even if it does lift off, not much is going to be able to be done about it. Trying to fly away now. Stalkers are going to finish off the SCV, going after the tech lab now. And we'll see what that starport can do. The starport now opting to do a bit of scouting. And what is going on? This starport just constantly flying back around. Twilight for you trying to find it, unable to find it, and Keen able to rebuild his starport here at the 3 or 4 o'clock high ground expansion location. Now an observer is keeping track and has sight on this large group of units. There is 1 Raven though. And if this observer is not careful, is going to get taken out by the Marines. 5 Marines, and the observer does spot the Raven in time, decides to back away, as we are now going to go into a Marine drop. The Marines do not yet have stim, as stalkers are now being added to this group. 1 pylon may get taken down, as the Marines are now focusing down onto that stalker. The stalker able to retreat though. 1 pylon is going to be pretty much all there is. If the medevacs run into a group of stalkers, that's a bad day. And now 500 resources lost there. Keen in trouble. 67 compared to 78 food. We do have a couple of siege tanks, but the medevac being taken out was absolutely huge, as stalkers, zealots, and immortals going to be able to bust open and take down all of these units here. The Marines finally do have stim, and now in comes some SCVs. Keen realizing that he needs to do an all-in attempt, and now gonna perhaps siege. Is he gonna siege? That is the question. There's the siege. In comes the units now. Raven needs to get out some point defense drones. No, there's a point defense drones. And now the Marines finishing off a couple of those Immortals as well. And now the Immortal is able to finish it off. Even though the point defense drone is in the air, it doesn't intercept that attack. And the SCVs are chasing after the Immortal. No, not chasing, as we are now down to 18 Marines, a decent number of SCVs, and a whole bunch of siege tanks. Probes now trying to make their way out, as a Banshee making its way in, getting in a couple easy kills there. Siege tank now up on the high ground, gonna try to perhaps blast away. And how is this gonna work? The Marines are still adding to this group. Only 1 siege tank here. It can get focused down very, very easily. SCVs perhaps need to repair it. There you go. Repairing that 1 siege tank back up to full hit points, as the stalkers are taking a lot of damage from that siege tank there. Probes now coming off. Marines stimming up. SCVs need to get in an engagement. Not quite sure why they're not attacking. An Immortal finishing off 1 siege tank from behind. And who's coming out ahead in this battle so far? Marines still fighting against a large number of stalkers and Immortals. Immortal now on the high ground there. The Marines, even without medevacs, still dealing a lot of damage. More Marines coming in as reinforcements, as a Raven is now up in the air, almost getting shot down. Alright, we are at 44 food compared to 41. Harvester count 14 compared to 21. Both sides taking terrible damage to their economies. And now this is really the all-in, the second all-in coming in from Keen. There is only 3 SCVs and perhaps even a mule to be called. SCVs actually being rallied to the battle as a point defense drone, saving a couple of hit points on a Marine as the point defense drone about to get destroyed. But it does have nearly full energy once more as the Raven wants to drop another point defense drone. Now, back over here, we still have this starport in play. It looks like it is going to be doing a bit more scouting. There is 1 medevac in the group. The 1 medevac, however, only down to 2-3 energy. Not going to really keep any of these units alive. The SCVs could perhaps repair this Raven, have it absorb a bit more damage as well, as we are no longer getting any additional gas. The starport flying overhead, able to see everything that's happening inside the base, but there is also a probe as well. That probe, an SCV gung-ho, trying to win the war, even holding a can of gas, as this game now going to continue. A starport made land and made a tighter choke point here. And this is going to be interesting as the starport lands. The Stalkers, point defense drone, force fields coming in, zealots and probes coming in on both sides. The point defense drone may end up winning the game here, as the Stalkers have not been able to deal that much damage at all. Keen continuing to put down this pressure, going after Stalkers, going after units. There is Immortals, and the Raven is still in the air. The point defense drone finally gets shot down as the Marines try to make their way up onto the high ground and go after these probes here. The probes are all in trouble. In comes the engagement. Stalkers and Zealots all pushing their way in. No Guardian Shield for some reason. The Marines are all low on hit points. Sentries, Stalkers, what's going to go on? And I believe Keen may pull off a miracle win here. Probes trying to come back around. What's happening? Harvester count 16-3. But there are 15 Marines compared to absolutely no army. And Twilight is forced to say GG once more. This has been perhaps some of the craziest games and most entertaining games I've seen in quite some time. I hope you guys enjoy it. The play-by-play, the analysis, all goes out the window right now, as these players have been pulling and executing some of the oddest strategies not played by the rulebook. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.